disabilities into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, come on in. It's time for us to get started. Hey, look at that in my background. Tennessee Titans. It's about that time. We got the big NFL draft coming on this week, so it's all get fired up. I don't know if I'm a Tennessee Titan fan. Just I live in Tennessee. I root for our Tennessee boys. That's about as far as I can go from there. We make good decisions, and we make a bunch of poor decisions. But I'm going to hang in there because it's our home state rooting for them. Now, hey, let's all get all fired up here today and everything. Grab a little gold nugget from this podcast and use it to help you to persevere through your next challenge, difficulty, hardship. And not only that, share it, pay it forward, help somebody else. Don't take your little gold nuggets to the burial site with you. It does no good. Pay it forward. Then just think, whatever you're helping someone today, and 100 years from now, your advice is going to travel that far, and you're going to help somebody in the future. All right, today, our podcast guest says she was fired from her job, okay? Fired, and she was falling into a professional abyss. But then she chose to build a social enterprise employing 1,300 people, took care of business her own. But she did something a little different. Not everybody does this. Some people, yes, but not everybody. But she wanted to give people with the greatest barriers, disadvantages, a chance and an opportunity to work. So she started hiring veterans that are disabled, other veterans, military spouses, people with disabilities, and people living with economically challenged areas, giving them an opportunity. And that's how she grew her business. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Mary Korn, thank you for being here.
It's an honor to be here.
Well, you'll change your mind once we get done here, saying it's an honor. So, Mary, we have a fun time here while we're on the old podcast here. So, but the main thing is, I love the way that I get to hear people's story on how something happened in life and how they persevered. And not only they persevered, they brought some other people with them and to help them out in life. So that's the greatest thing that I enjoy listening to. And your story of going out and helping the other people with the biggest barriers and hardships and giving them an opportunity just hits me right where the heart should be hit.
Cool.
So, all right, Mary, will you go ahead and put us in your story where you think is best for us to get started?
Okay. So I hope that my story inspires people that during the darkest moments of your life, there is hope. And I feel like at this stage of my life, my story and my life is all about being that beacon of light. So here's the story. I'm going to start with what happened, and then if time permits, I'll talk about the backstory.
Yes, ma'am.
At the age of, so should I just keep talking and you'll just ask questions?
You just go in there, and I'm going to hang in like a hair in a biscuit.
Okay. So for most of my life, I had been working in jobs that never felt connected, never felt engaged. I'd been in one position for 14 years. I couldn't stay any longer because I was so burnt out. So I took the next job that came along. And in your introduction, you talked about how people make mistakes. Well, I made a lot of mistakes taking the job that I took because I only lasted 2 months and I got fired. And I own a lot of things I did wrong. And the first thing I did wrong was take the job in the first place. Mm-hmm. Because when you take a job without doing the internal work to know what aligns your heart, what your purpose is, there's a really good chance that you're going to end up in a job that doesn't make you happy. And if you're not happy or good at a job, it's not good for anyone. So here I was at the age of 46, single mom, 2 kids getting ready to go to college, and absolutely terrified and incredibly lost. So about a week after I lost my job, I was walking in an alley and I prayed. And I'm not going to get religious, but I do believe firmly in my heart of all hearts, there is this divine spirit.
Let me stop you there, Mary. Don't
Yeah,
don't be ashamed to get all religious and everything. I mean, it's your journey, your
thank
story,
you.
and I'm here to back it up anyway. I'm a Christian as well, so I'm not going to. I mean, even if someone's not a Christian, I wouldn't beat them into them and say you got to make this
Right,
work. No, if it's your story, Mary, you throw it out there. You don't hold back. It's your
right.
journey. Yeah.
Thank you. So I was walking down an alley and I said a prayer that went something like this.
Hmm.
Okay, God, I am lost. I am so lost. I am so humble. And you just need to tell me what to do because I don't know what to do, but I'll make a deal with you. And the deal I'll make with you is if you tell me what to do right now, because, we all know, I believe prayer is helpful, but you usually don't get answers right away or on call. But I did. And but before I tell you what the voice said, my bargain was I will dedicate my life to helping people as lost, confused, and feeling as hopeless as I am. And I heard 2 words. And the 2 words I heard were medical associations. And I'm like, what? What? And I said, okay, I'm not going to question this. I'm going to go with this. So I went home, and through career coaching, which I can't tell your listeners enough how invaluable it is, I did all kinds of career coaching. And what my assessment said is that one day I was meant to be a leader of a for-profit social impact company. But I never knew how I was going to get there until I was fired. So I got on the phone and I started making calls. I made my new job making what's called informational interviews. And these are calls made to people you're connected to or not connected to, where you have structured, intentional conversations to understand how your skills, your talents, and your interests could transform into something new. And I did that with directors of medical associations, and I started getting appointments. And 6 weeks after I started, the CEO of a medical association called me and said, I can't hire you because I don't have a job. But what I can do is hire you to raise sponsorship dollars. And when I did the math, I knew there was no way I was going to afford to feed my family on one account. So this is where the story gets interesting. I started hiring able-bodied people to make outbound calls to do sales, and not one of them lasted more than a week. And my fiance at the time said, you should give this woman a chance to work for you. And this woman was a quadriplegic. She was totally fine. She developed MS and she lost use of her legs and her arms.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time that I started this business, I used to go to people's homes and meet with them before I hired them. And I drove from Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland, Ohio. I met her parents. And before I even left, they cleared off her desk, their dining room table, and they made it her desk. And this woman single-handedly sold $140,000 in sponsorships. She had no use of her hands. She could not get out of bed by herself. Her parents had to get her out of bed, and she couldn't drink or eat on her own. Everything she ate was through a straw.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and she stayed with me for 3 years. And I thought, this is a good story. So I started getting more and more associations, and I started hiring more and more people with all kinds of medical issues, people who are quadriplegic, paraplegic, people who are blind, people who had terminal cancer. And so the recurring theme here is this divine spirit, because out of the blue, I get a call from the Rehab Services Commission of Ohio. And they said, we have $80,000, an $80,000 grant we have to spend. So keep in mind, I didn't solicit it. I didn't even look for it. It just came out of the blue.
Yeah.
They said, we're not going to give you the money, but what we will do is spend it on whatever you tell us to spend it on. So you'll keep hiring more and more people with barriers. And I asked for three things. I asked for assistive technology that enabled people to work from home to work for me. So it was assistive technology that enabled people to work on the telephone using Dragon.
Uh-huh.
There were what?
No, Dragon. Yeah, I've used that before. Yeah.
Yeah. So we used 3 or 4 different assistive technologies, but we worked with a tech firm out of India that provided an integrated phone system that enabled people who are blind or with no use of their hands to work from home on contracts I put them to work on. So I asked for the assistive technology and the phone system. I asked for laptops, and I asked for someone at the Rehab Services Commission to screen people that I even though they had disabilities, they still had to have the skills to do the job.
Yes.
And they said something that made perfect sense, but I was so lost and confused. I didn't know what to think, but what they said is, you've got to do a business plan. And that was the best requirement I could think of. Because when you do a business plan, it tells you what your road, it's your GPS. It tells you what you have to do, what you're doing. Because a lot of people have dreams of doing work, but they don't have a plan, and you got to have a plan. So I did the business plan, and for the first 7 years of the business, I got more and more associations, hired more and more people with disabilities, but this is what I discovered, is the work I was getting for people was episodic. So your average person with disabilities, and it depends on what the disability is, but someone who's blind has at best a 5% employment rate. People who have hearing issues, I saw the statistics a while back, but my point being is the percent of people with disabilities working really depends on the level of their disability and type of disability. So I also know that many of the people I hired had been unemployed 7 to 8 years before I hired them. And the work I was getting with associations is episodic. So I would take someone who'd been unemployed for 7 years, give them work for 3 or 4 months, their project would end and they would be on the bench. And I'm like, I don't like this. I need recurring revenue. I need good benefits. I need competitive wages and career pathways. So I went to a workshop and the speaker talked about the beauty of getting government contracts. I was smitten, and I knew I wanted government contracts because I had a vision of one day hiring a minimum of 1,000, if not more, employees. And I knew my ticket to getting there would be getting government contracts. So I had no clue of how I was going to do it. But what I did have is a really good friend with a basement in Washington, near the Washington, D.C. area. And I knew, come hell or high water, I was going to figure this out. And that's the thing about my story. Do people call you Dr. Purdue or James?
Oh, just James is great. Yeah, don't go for the doctor so much. I can't write out a prescription, but I can drive you to your pharmacy if you need me to.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
James is good.
James, I've long learned you don't have to have a clue of what you're doing. If you wait till you know exactly what you're doing, you might wait a long, long time. But somebody told me that if you want government contracts, you've got to get inside the beltway and you've got to persevere, because government contracts are very hard to get. but they can be very large and very long term. So all the revenue I was making in the commercial market, I used to invest in getting a federal contract. So for 2 years, I didn't make a cent, but I found a contract that was a 10-year contract that enabled me to hire 350 employees. So in 90 days, upon winning the contract, I went from 20 to 340 employees, and the company eventually grew to 1,300
Wow.
employees, and then I sold the business.
Wow. That's awesome.
But my backstory is much more interesting because, as interesting as this is, there were two there were two things that influenced and inspired me, and one of them was my mother, who was a Holocaust survivor, and
Okay. Yes. Yes.
my mother, at the age of 13, was forced into a cattle car meant for a death camp.
Hmm.
And it's her bravery that I've channeled through all of my life.
I can
Because
tell.
at yeah, so at
After
13,
after hearing about your mother, I can tell. Yeah.
yeah, so at 13, she was on a cattle car meant
Yeah.
to, destined for a death camp. And she saw the apparition of her father who had been deceased. And he said to her and her sister, "You have to jump from this train." And they're like, but, there's SS guards with machine guns. And his voice said, "If you don't jump, you will not live, and you have to live. You have to live." And they did. They jumped off the car and they lived. So my mother was in the camp Bergen-Belsen for 5 years. And Bergen-Belsen, by the way, is the camp where Anne Frank was. And my mother always believed that she worked side by side Anne Frank
Hmm.
because Bergen-Belsen was the camp that made uniforms for the Nazi soldiers. And she always said that the two of them had something in common, which is the two of them had long, thick braids. And she never forgot Anne Frank. So, anyway, near the end of the war,
Yeah.
there was the death march. So, Hitler evacuated the concentration camps and forced the concentration camp survivors to walk in the middle of the winter. And by this time, she was about between 75 and 80 pounds, and she knew she wouldn't survive. So she hid in a barn
Mm.
under the hay, and she was caught by a farmer at gunpoint. And the farmer said, "I have three choices. I could kill you and get away with it. I could turn you over to the Nazis, or I could let you live." And his wife said, "You have to let them go because we're Christians. And one day we're going to meet our Maker, and you cannot do anything but what I'm telling you to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
listened. He listened. And again, this divine providence, the Swedish Red Cross was there when they walked out of the barn. And she convalesced at a high school that was converted into a hospital. So this is my mother's story, but the other
Yeah.
story that drove me was the movie Schindler's List,
Oh yes.
because Oscar Schindler proved that if you give people jobs, you save lives. And I don't believe for a second I save lives, but I do believe that hiring priority to people with the greatest barriers, you give people meaning and you give them sustenance.
Yeah.
So, James, this
Yeah.
this is my story.
Yeah. You give them a meaning, purpose, a reason to get up in the
Yeah,
morning and do something than just sitting around watching TV all day. It gives them
yeah,
that the reason to, and they know that they're being productive in the community and society in some way. Yeah, exactly. I know the feeling of that. It when I was first trying to get a teaching job, I went to interviews for over 3 years and kept hearing
wow,
no, no,
yeah,
no, 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 no. 3 years, and finally I got the position. So,
cool.
yeah,
I
so
love it.
I know that wanting to be part of society, wanting to have a reason, to do something. So what you did is just remarkable, and I really appreciate that you given the opportunity for these other people. Um, Again, if you wouldn't have, what would their life have been like?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and me speak from experience, it wouldn't have been encouraging. You would always be down and negative about something. But once you've got a reason to do, it gives you that oomph to get up and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate you doing that. That's like I said, some places do, but not all the places, not everywhere.
Yeah.
But and then one thing that I come to when I was looking, because sometimes you have to do some modification to help whatever a person may be. Like you were talking about that dragon getting laptops, other phones to make it easier for them to use. I mean, you may have to have some little alterations to make things work, but
Yes.
usually it doesn't cost a whole lot more.
Well,
And
yeah.
research is, well, I'm talking about per individual. You're talking about in a group. Yeah, 1,300 laptops. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But per person, it's really not that much money to
Oh,
fix things where
right.
they can work. And research has shown that most people with disabilities work harder, and not to say those people are lazy, but because they work harder and work longer because they feel they have to prove themselves.
Yeah. Well, also, what people don't realize is the state pays for a lot of the technology.
Yep.
And the people who I hired with the most severe disabilities, we got a rehab engineer that brought the assistive technologies. So, what people don't realize is that there's all kinds of resources through the state, rehab services. So, a lot of times it doesn't have to come out of the pocket of the employer or the person they hire, the state will fund it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
by
So,
the way, the assistive technologies we worked with were JAWS uh, and Kurzweil uh, um, and Dragon Naturally Dictate. And there was another Zoom. It was called Zoom, but it like enlarged
okay,
screen
yes, yeah, yeah.
text.
For the
Uh,
part of seeing,
Hearing, excuse
could
me,
read.
sight challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
could read. Yes. So,
But
um,
it was just an amazing story because when you do work that's for social good, you attract people that I did not succeed at this alone. It was a whole cast and crew that so loved my mission. And people who were completely able-bodied wanted to work with us because they loved what our social mission is. And the other cool thing about owning a social enterprise is if cost is equal, the story of a social enterprise will always win, will always win, always. If you go to buy a tube of toothpaste at the grocery store, you may spend 50 cents to a dollar more. If a tube of toothpaste would help sex workers get off the street or give opportunities to people with barriers to work.
mhm.
So it's a good marketing story.
Yeah, I noticed now. Noticed maybe 2 years ago. It was after COVID. I know that more of the, I don't want to pin out a specific restaurant or fast food thing, but a lot of them say, "Would you want to round up for?" And
Yeah,
most of the time, I will round up that extra 50 cents, 60 cents,
yeah,
4 cents, because I know that's supposed to be going to help for the good. Yeah,
yeah,
I know more restaurants are doing that now, um,
yeah. But there's some
to round
big
up.
businesses. Like Bombas is one of them. Every pair of socks you buy, they give socks to children who can't afford socks.
Hmm.
And it's more and more prevalent.
Now I will go and push this one McDonald's, and they when you round up to them, it helps out what they have what's called Ronald McDonald Housing.
Yes.
And what that is, I used that back in 1980, 88. That's how long ago it's been for me there, Mary. 1988, I used him. I went to Miami to participate in a spinal cord research, was called the Miami
Wow.
Project. And I stayed at their housing, which
Oh,
only
their
cost me,
houses are
it,
great.
it only cost me $10 a day, compared
Wow.
to back then,
Yeah.
80 to $120 a day at a hotel.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 3 months. And so anytime I can up that change at McDonald's, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will push that one. So
Yeah.
I think
So
a lot
that's
of
my
people would do
story.
that. Well, I think a lot of people
Yeah.
would do the like you said, if it's an extra 50 cents or even $1, if it's to help sex trafficking to be prevented, I think more people would. I think more people would give to that, knowing it's to help a cause.
Yes.
I would think. I know I would. My family, I know
Yeah.
we would, if we knew it's something up. All right, here's a stupid one, but every time I see Jersey Mike's, hey Jersey Mike, I'm giving you promotion too here now. But there are certain days a year they'll say, uh, buy their sandwich, whatever you buy, and 100% means everything they sold that day is going to Children's Network, that are
Yeah.
the Children's Network for hospitals. And so that day, I always make sure we gonna get sandwiches from Jersey Mike
Yeah.
that day to make sure we're still getting our sandwich, but we know the money's
Yeah.
going to go help the Children's Network. So
Yeah.
we do that quite a bit. So,
Cool.
well, Mary, I really enjoy your story, and I'm glad you had
Thank
a.
you.
I'm glad God gave you a heart to want to help the underprivileged and the people. I don't say more deserving than anyone else, or at least a chance to have the opportunity to work and do. And if you can't do the job, at least you had a chance to try it.
Yeah. It,
So,
it's it's my calling. It was what I was called to do. And my calling right now is to help people who are lost and stuck in jobs, people who've been fired, or people who want to be inspired by their work. And is it okay if I talk about my book and my workbooks?
I was going to say, when I introduced you, I meant to say an author of Fire to Inspire, a journey of career reinvention and unshakable drive, Mary Korn. Meant to say author Mary Korn. Yes, go ahead and talk about your book now.
Yeah, so the book went to the publishers and it should be coming out at the end of this summer. And I have a website, which is firedtoinspire.com, www.firedtoinspire.com. And on my website, I have 3 free workbooks. One is called Embracing Courage, and it's about overcoming fear, because if you're stuck in fear, you're stuck. The second one is finding your life purpose, because to find a job without knowing what your purpose is, it's like getting in an elevator and not knowing what floor to get off of. You have to know what you want to do. So the second, and these are all free workbooks. And the third workbook is the Holy Grail of Informational Interviews. So when I told you the story of getting on the phone and calling, there's an art to how you make calls where you're not asking for a job. All you're asking is for information to understand how you transition your skills, your talent, and your experience into something that interests you. So there's 3 workbooks. They're free and they're on my website, which is www.firedtoinspire.com.
And I'll put that information in our show notes when we get up and going here. So, I was going to say also, what you may feel is your purpose today may not be your purpose in 10 years, may not be your purpose
Yes,
tomorrow, may not be
right.
tomorrow. Okay. And I tell people, for example, your purpose, I don't know, owning your business and helping other people with, barriers to help them get a job and stuff, maybe that. But what if you get hit by a drunk driver one day and now you want to
Yeah,
be an advocate for other people that's been unjustly hit by a drunk driver? Okay, then
right.
your purpose may change. Or, God forbid, you get the old big C word, cancer, and then you survive, and now you want to do what you can to help the foundation of cancer societies, to help other people, to help you get through it. So don't think your purpose is set in stone for all your life, even though that could be. It could be that, but don't be surprised if it juggles and changes a couple of times.
Absolutely, because we're forever evolving.
That's right. That's right. So, well, Mary, you have been a joy meeting you, and well, you've got me fired up and inspired because I tell you, when I was taking those 3 years looking for a job, teaching, and kept hearing
Painful,
no, no, no,
painful.
oh, yeah, it got more discouraging each time to go into your next interview. But I had to put on a face and try to be positive and everything. Finally got that one, so went from there. Then that about 14 years later, health came again, so I had to quit. But it was
Yeah,
good. It was good. So, and which eventually led me to doing this podcast now. So,
awesome.
all right, Mary, I appreciate you being here and sharing your journey, your story. It's very positive. It's inspiring. Hopefully someone else can say, that's a good idea to give these other people. I've seen a couple what on YouTube or Facebook little reels,
Yeah.
and they showing these restaurants where they got these people with Down syndrome working in
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and how the customers just enjoy and thrive
Sure.
with these people there as they're people that are serving them, working with them,
Right.
working for them. So it's yeah, there's a lot of good people like you out there. We just need to get a few more.
Thank you, James. A
So
pleasure.
all right, Mary, thank you for being here. Hey, Mary, is any other? I know you put your website out. Is there any other social media you want us to? In case anybody
Yes,
want to get
LinkedIn, Mary Korn, Merry Korn, Korn.
there we go, like the old rock group Korn back in the day.
Yes,
K
yeah, yes,
Korn. That's right.
yes.
So, all right, Mary. So, thank you for being here. Hey, there are people hurting and struggling. If you can leave us with one powerful message, that'd be a blessing.
Never, 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 never give up. Never.
There we go. Simple as that. Keep on moving on, moving on, and moving on. Get her done,
Yeah,
as they say. Hang in there like a loose tooth, they would say in the South. So,
yeah.
all right, Mary. Hey, thank you for being here. You're a peach, and I really enjoy it. I'm glad I got to meet you. And we'll definitely get this website and everything up on the show notes. And you'll be up and going tomorrow. I'll have this up
All
and going
right.
tomorrow. All right.
Thank
Everybody
you.
else, share this out with someone else. And appreciate y'all being here. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.